Hello, and welcome to the David Mammano Show. I am so happy you're here today. Thank you so much. I'm touched. I'm honored. I feel blessed that of all the I don't know, millions of podcasts out there in the whole world, you are listening to the David Mammano Show today. Thank you so much. And I take it so seriously that I promise you, like, I'm bringing you the best guests that we don't talk about fluff. We talk about stuff. I'll keep it rated G here. We talk about stuff that can alter your life in a very good way. And today I have on the show a great guest that is really kind of yinging when everyone else is yanging. I think that's the best way to say it. And you're going to understand why. Derek Coburn, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Dave. Thanks for having me, man.
Derek, you're there's a lot of financial advisors in the world, right? And God, in Rochester here, I don't know, there's probably thousands, and you are a great one, and you're in the DC area, Virginia, et cetera. But you're a very successful one, but also have found a way to stand out, provide value beyond just selling people financial products. And that's why I think it makes you special. I want to read your bio quickly, and then we're going to get into some great questions about how you could change people's lives. How's that sound?
Amazing. Sounds great.
All right. Derek Coburn. He's an entrepreneur and a financial advisor with over 27 years of experience, and the USA Today best-selling author of Let's Retire Retirement. I like that. It's the tagline is How to Live Your Life to Its Fullest Now and Later. A book in which he reveals why the traditional retirement model is failing us, and he's offering a revolutionary approach to designing a life so fulfilling that you'll never want to retire from it. His passion for connecting remarkable professionals led him, and along with his wife, Melanie, to found Cadre. Cadre is an exclusive unnetworking community for CEOs and entrepreneurs. Through Cadre, he fosters meaningful professional connections that transcend traditional networking. Derek's insights on reimagining work, money, and fulfillment have been featured in Forbes. He's also the number one author of the number one bestseller, Networking is Not Working. I love all these reverse kind of statements you make. Yeah. He's an advocate for prioritizing experiences over material success. Derek enjoys traveling and live music and values being a husband and father above all else. He lives in Virginia with Melanie and the two sons, actively practicing the principles he teaches about creating a life worth living today, not just a distant retirement. I love that. And, you have a way with words, Derek, right? Let's retire retirement, right? Networking is not working. You don't have a networking community. You have an unnetworking community. So you're mixing it up a little bit. So tell us how this all started. This sounds fantastic.
What started? Which part?
God, you're like day one and you were born. No, I'm just kidding. No, so you're a financial advisor, in which there are a lot of them. How did you start to think about, like, there's more to, I want to do more than just be a financial advisor. What was the spark? And then how did you take action to get that going?
Yeah, so I was, built up my career and built up a good client base primarily by cold calling, and then started going to networking events. And I was qualifying for all of the trips that a lot of the advisors were qualifying for, fancy vacations, big boats. And I was about 10 years younger than everyone, and most of them had 1,500 to 2,000 clients. Only liked working with about 20% of them. And I just said, that's not the path that I want to go down. And it was around the time where the internet and social media was really starting to pop off. Let's call it 2008. We couldn't, and still to this day, are quite limited in what we can do in terms of marketing. But we couldn't use social media. We couldn't use word of mouth marketing. We couldn't write blogs. And I just said, I want to be able to do something else. And so I built my wealth management practice from that point on by hosting smaller events, bringing my clients and allowing them to bring their friends and colleagues to wine tastings, to golf outings, to concerts, to business events, and grew my practice that way. And then in 2011, I got rid of about 75% of my clients, started Cadre with my wife, and just had the two businesses going side by side together for a pretty long time, and still to this day.
And so you wanted more. And, a lot of the people that are listening to this show, they're younger. They're not ready to retire yet. They are small and medium sized business owners, achievers, etc. And they're probably thinking why should I be listening to a podcast about a guy that's talking about retirement? But you're talking about unretirement, right? So tell us more about that.
Look, I think that a lot of people have bought into this idea that they're supposed to do a job, typically one that they don't love, for 30 years and make sacrifices to their health, their happiness, and key relationships, among other things, all in the name of saving a certain money by a certain age so they can then experience those things. And when they get there, they're not happy. And when they get there, we're seeing that a lot of people don't want to sit around and do nothing, that they're looking to go back and find work to do. And I'm saying that I think that what we should be doing when we're younger is we should be planning to have some income coming in longer than what we think currently. So income coming into our late 60s, 70s, maybe even 80s or beyond. And when you have money coming in from income and you put that into your plan, what it means is you don't have to save as much right now. And then what that means is you now all of a sudden have more money and more time that you get to spend on the people and things that are most important to you now, instead of deferring it and putting it off for a day that might not ever arrive.
What are some examples of creating income that's going to last you reoccurring until your 60s, 70s, 80s, and maybe beyond?
Yeah, I mean, it could be what you're doing right now. It could be, just if you love what you do, then you continue to do it. It could be doing what you're doing now, but scaling back some. Maybe you say you're a real estate agent or an accountant or an attorney or a financial advisor or fill in the blank, and you're working 50 hours a week now, and eventually you see yourself maybe doing 25 hours a week, or maybe you see yourself pivoting into another career entirely. I think that the requirement for my end would just be to do something that, at least do something that you don't hate. I don't think that it has to be something that you love. I don't think it has to always be something that makes you jump out of bed in the morning, but I think you have to like it enough and like the people enough, and it has to provide a gateway for you being able to do more of the things that you want to do outside of work. And I think a lot of us can find something like that. And if we do find something like that, we're going to find that brings us more pleasure than maybe just sitting around for 30 years sipping lemonade on our front porch.
Well, yeah. How many people do you know that retire from the job that they've had for a long time, and then a year later they're sick or dead, right? Yeah. And it's wow, you worked your whole life saving for retirement. Great, you've got $2 million. You're 65, awesome, and then you can't enjoy it, right? So you're right. That's a total shame and tragedy. So you're saying, have fun now while still maybe you don't need to save $2 million or whatever. Maybe you need to save $1 million or $500,000, but just set it up so you're still having fun when you're 25, 35, 45, and setting up systems so that, you still have income when you are 65 plus.
Yeah, and let me just give you an example. Yeah, it's what I'm saying, and fun can be part of the equation, but also investing in your health and sleeping better and working out more and dating your spouse more and all of these other things, I think that people feel like they can't afford to do more of. I want to wave my magic wand and show and really just allow your listeners to feel how they might have more money, more time than they previously thought. So I shared an example in my book about a guy named Tony. I call it a tale of two Tonys. Tony's 45 years old. He makes $150,000 a year, and he has $150,000 saved up for retirement. He meets with his financial advisor, and the financial advisor says, "What age do you want to retire?" And he says he's not sure. So he says, "Let's pick 65 because that's the age that everyone else is picking." So Tony says, "Great." We use all the standard industry numbers for inflation, rate of return, all of that, fairly conservative. Tony has to save $2,400 a month, every single month, adjusted for inflation for the next 20 years in order to be able to retire. So if you add that up over the course of a year, that's $30,000 almost. That's about 20% of his income. That is a non-starter for most people. That would mean that he is actually saving more than he's spending after taxes. But in the book, and I'll spare you the dramatic flair here, we take a different course. Tony goes down a path where he asks the financial advisor to show him what it looks like to work until he's 75 instead of 65. And that number that Tony has to save by extending his work 10 extra years goes down from $2,400 a month to $110 per month. It goes down by 96%. And maybe Tony doesn't want to work till 75. Maybe he wants to work until he's 70. If he extends his working years in the plan to 70, the number goes from $2,400 a month to $600 a month. It's a 75% reduction. But Tony, like most people, is buying into this thing, I need to retire at 65. And he feels like because he's already behind, he has to skip family dinners, he has to skip vacations, he has to cut back on his sleep, all in the name of being able to arrive at a place that's not going to be anything like it's being advertised to him right now.
So, the two Tonys. So the other Tony, what does he choose? Does he choose $100 a month?
Well, yeah, you get to choose whatever you want. That's the great thing about this, right? But I think that, again, we have now this big movement called the unretirement movement, where people have retired and they're going back to work, not because they need the money, but because they missed the connection, they missed the contribution. And it's about 30% right now. 30% of people that have retired are saying, I don't really like this thing that I'm a part of right now. I want to go back to work and start doing something like I was doing before.
Yeah, if you love what you do, why would you retire? Even if you, like you said, you're cutting down your hours a little bit, but you still get to, get your soul jazzed by doing something you love doing anyway, right?
Yeah, no doubt, man.
Yeah.
And again, I changed the language. It was like the first couple of drafts of the book, it was find something you love doing. But I feel like that's not for everybody, and not everyone's going to find something that they love doing. But I say, just find something that's not completely, taking away all of your joy, right? Just find a group of people, find some work that maybe your passion is actually organizing all of the amazing trips that you and your friends from college go on every single year, or your passion is going to see amazing concerts, and you want to go. I tell a story about a guy, a software engineer in my book, who likes his job and he likes the people he does it with. He doesn't love it, but they've got a really flexible policy, and he gets to go see fish 30 times a year because of the work that he does for this company. And so as long as he's doing that, it's funding, his passion and allowing him to spend his time and money the way that he wants to.
When did this whole notion of retirement start in America?
So, I'll take you back to Germany first. It was 1889, and it was the first ever government social plan that was being set up. And it was a guy named, a chancellor named Otto von Bismarck. And he picked the age of 65 as the retirement age. And why did he pick the age of 65? He picked the age of 65 because that was the age that most people were expected to live till. It was the age that people were dying, right? So let's make it 65. They adjusted it a few years later to 70, but FDR in 1935, when he was putting together the Social Security Act, rolled with 65, thought that was a good number. And, it was really at that time, if you were going to have a traditional retirement, which most workers did not want, your life expectancy was like 71. So you got a third of your income from Social Security, a third of your income from pension plans, which really don't exist that much anymore. And then you had to cover the remaining third, and it only had to last you about six or so years. And 65 to this day is still kind of like the default number that almost everyone thinks about when they ask about retirement. And, we're living a lot longer. We're living a lot longer than what the average life expectancy is if we make it to 65 or 70. And I just think that, again, we were not put on this earth to do something that we don't enjoy doing for 30 years in order to earn the right to sit around and do nothing at all after that for another 30 years.
Yep. Yeah, it is interesting. What was the average age these days that people are passing away? It's in the 70s, right?
It's more, I think the life expectancy across all the board, right, is in the high 70s. But once you get to 65, if you make it to 65, for women, it's, I think, 88, and for men, it's 86.
Wow. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, life expectancy went down for the first time this year due to a lot of, a variety of factors. But you're still seeing people that are able to spend a certain amount of money in proactive healthcare and taking care of themselves. That number is still going up. And I think that will continue to go up. I think that there's probably a lot of people listening to this right now that are going to make it to 100 and maybe even beyond.
Are there any studies that you know of where if you continue working, even like you said, part-time, that your propensity to live longer increases?
Yeah, so there's an entire chapter in my book called Happiness versus Meaning, and I share a study that was done by a woman named Barbara Fredrickson, where she put people into two groups. The group one prioritized personal happiness. That was what they cared about. That's what they woke up every day, focused on what can I do to make myself happy? Group 2 prioritized purpose, meaning something above and beyond themselves. And the group that prioritized personal happiness, when they hooked them up to brain and heart monitors and did other tests with them, they found their bodies had the same response that a body has when it's dealing with chronic adversity. So the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, their inflammation markers went through the roof, their immunity went down. They were just much more likely to get sick and die. And the group that was prioritizing purpose and meaning, just they were here for something above and beyond themselves. It was the opposite. Their inflammation markers were quite low. Their immunity was high. They weren't getting sick. They weren't getting diseases. And so the irony of it is, like, if you really want to be happy, don't directly pursue happiness. And if you want to live longer, continue to have something that you're excited about, that you're focused on, where you feel like you can make a difference above and beyond what it's going to do for you and those closest to you.
Yeah, I mean, have some purpose every day, right? And I also just think the social connections too of working have to help as well. Just being around with people, the friendships from that. I have to think that increases your life expectancy as well.
Yeah, I shared, there was another study that was done that was floating around the internet about a year and a half ago. It was a study that showed how people are spending their time as they get older and with different types of people. So I don't know if you saw this or not, but it was, how much time are you spending alone? How much time are you spending with your spouse? How much time are you spending with coworkers? How much time are you spending with friends? And it put it all on a graph. And, alone time from when you're 15 to 20 years old was about 100 minutes a day, and it goes up to like 300 minutes a day by the time you're 60 years old. And the takeaway that a lot of people had from this information was, well, we're going to be spending a lot of time by ourselves when we're older, so we might as well get used to it and learn to enjoy it more. My big takeaway was just how shockingly and dramatically the numbers dipped in the friendship department. So like when we are 10, 15, 20 years old and we're spending, something like 200 hours or what is it? Something like 150 hours a day, 150 minutes. Did I say hours? 150 minutes a day with friends. And that number goes all the way down to like 15 minutes a day by the time we're like in our 40s and 50s. And like, when did we stop deprioritizing friendship, and I think that there's in line with the book and the idea of retirement, and we're spending all this time thinking about how much money we're going to need to retire, and we're not spending any time thinking about who do we actually want to retire with.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I mean, people make fun of me because I'm still friends with people that I literally was in first grade with. Like, I still hang out with them, Yeah,
it's amazing.
But it makes me feel like, well, maybe I'm on the right track here, like.
Yeah.
Like my best friend, still today, I've known since first grade. And I've got friends from college that we still get together. I joke that when I do turn around 65, these little towns in Italy that, like their population has gone down tremendously, and they're selling these villas for like $1 if you fix them up.
Yep.
I want to call 100 of my close friends, right? Smile, but I probably could. And say, hey, why don't we all just go take over this town? Why don't we all buy our own villa, fix them up? And we'll have our own friendship town, in our retirement.
Yeah, man.
And I got a lot of people being like, "That's a great idea." So we'll see.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about doing a chosen family compound, and having all of our friends live in the same spot. But I'll tell you, we all do a very poor job of predicting what our future selves are going to actually want or enjoy. And no one really ever walks into my office with their hand raised, knowing that they don't want to ever fully retire. And so I'll humor them. I'll say, well, what do you think retirement is going to look like? And a lot of them will start going down this path where they talk about where they're going to live, and they're going to have a boat, and they're going to be by the ocean. And then I'll say, well, what if your kids and grandkids live somewhere completely different? And 9 times out of 10, they're like, well, then we'd probably want to live there. So
just like that.
I think maybe a combination, right? Where we're around our friends a bunch, but then we're also in close proximity to our family as well.
Yep. No, I always imagine having a home base in Rochester, where, I'm from. My DNA is in the soil over here for sure, but just to Airbnb it all over the country, right? Just I feel like going to Australia for a month, I feel like going to Italy for a month, or Greece, whatever. And just that's kind of my dream retirement. and setting it up where I could work anywhere. So
Yep.
like you, I don't imagine completely retiring because like I don't golf. I don't know what I would do. Like I love working. I love what I do.
Yep.
And setting up my life where I could work anywhere, And, the joke is that when I'm, maybe when I'm 70, I'll work half days, right? 12 hours a day, right? So.
Yep. Exactly.
If you love what you do, right?
Yeah, man.
Now, your first book was more about networking, but you called it, networking is not working, and then you describe your group as kind of unnetworking. So,
Yep.
What about networking was not working for you?
Just the big event thing, man. I started going there, and you read a lot of advice about networking, and the types of people that go to networking events are the types of people that are typically desperately looking for clients. Like, the people that you want to meet are busy enough and successful enough that they're not going to the happy hour with the free hors d'oeuvres and wine on a Wednesday night. Like, they just have better, more productive stuff to do with their time, right? So like, it was interesting. Like, I think a lot of the 1-star reviews that I got for that book were sort of like, oh, I didn't learn anything about how to go to, be a better networker. Cause that was like chapter 1, step 1, stop going to big networking events.
Like bingo.
Instead like host smaller events, on your own. And so my book was it was a book about, how to leverage client appreciation as a client acquisition strategy designed as a networking book.
So tell me about the beginnings of Cadre and how did you think of that name and what were kind of the first steps in you and your wife, Melanie, getting that together?
I was just a napkin man, just sitting around one night. Like I said, with the wealth management practice, I really through wine tastings, I increased my revenue by like 300% in about 18 months by hosting these events where I would invite my clients to come to something, and their invitation would include the opportunity for them to bring 1 or 2 guests with them. And so this was not me saying, "Hey, can I have a referral, please, for all the good work that I'm doing for you?" It was, "Hey, why don't you come to this cool thing that I'm hosting and bring somebody with you?" And what would happen is I didn't have to really sell myself at these events because everyone would be talking. There would be 25, 30 people there. Client A brought a guest. Client B brought a guest. Client A's guest starts talking to Client B. "How do you know Derek?" "Well, I've been working with Derek for 10 years. "How do you know Derek?" "I don't know him. I just came with Client A over here before." And sorry, my phone was going off. And I'm not really sure, why I'm here. I'm not really sure, like anything about. I don't know anything at all about Derek. And so at the end of the day, it was really just me hosting cool stuff. And I think that my networking and my hosting approach works best for somebody that can check 2 boxes. 1, they have a predominantly local business, and number 2, they generate recurring annual revenue, right? Because for me, I can spend money on something, and if I don't get any new clients out of it at all, I just did something really great for an existing client of mine. I've deepened that relationship. But what would happen, like almost every single event, is the guests would start thinking, "Wait a minute, my financial advisor doesn't invite me to do cool wine tasting events or go to cool, stand-up comedian shows or, fill in the blank, and certainly doesn't let me invite my friends to go on these experiences with them." So they would start asking me questions, and you don't really have to do that much to differentiate yourself as a financial advisor. So to land the plane here, like, I got really good at doing that. And so I just said, let's figure out a way to bring groups together, people together in smaller settings to allow people to get to know each other on a more intimate basis so they can explore how they might be able to help each other out.
And then lo and behold, you're like, "I'm onto something. Let me elevate this to more of my version of a networking group."
Exactly. Yeah. So like the buy-in was and still is, we want to attract people who are successful enough that they can show up focused on how they can add value for other people, as opposed to showing up focused on how they are going to get value. And by us doing our vetting, doing our job on the front end, everyone lets their guard down, and it actually leads to people working together, doing business together, I think much earlier in the relationship cycle than it would otherwise.
Awesome. So why did you have to let 75% of your clients go?
It's just the typical 80-20 rule, just like clients that were, were demanding more than I thought was reasonable, or just didn't enjoy working with them. But I was working 70, 80 hours a week, and was, getting ready to get married, and was going to have a family in a few years. And I just said, I just need to, I need to figure out a different way to do this. But I kept, kept the quality, kept the people that I really loved working with, that had the right amount of assets to justify the time I was spending with them. And I went to my existing clients and said, look, I'm going to start this other thing. And you might think, and I want to, calm your fears, because you might think that I'm going to be spending less time with you. But the reality is, like, I had 150 other clients, 200 other clients before. Now I'm not spending time with them. Now I'm spending my time developing relationships with other professionals in the community. And I'm going to be a better resource for you, on top of continuing to do my job and what you expect of me as your financial advisor.
Love it. So really it was kind of a pruning of the rose bush.
I think so. Yep.
That's great. And then it's a very innovative idea. I mean, how to offer, how to grow your business by offering more value, resources, et cetera, to your top clients.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Look, I think that there have been I've done this in a variety of ways, and some of them are a little bit more closer to what they might expect from me. But I'll tell you that I think long-term care insurance, as an example, I've always referred to this as the iceberg to your financial plan's Titanic. And I feel like a lot of advisors are not talking with their clients about it. Certainly, a lot of advisors are not talking with their clients about it in regards to their parents. So one thing that I did for a very long time was I said, yeah, we're going to get you 7 or 8% on your investments, and you're getting cold calls from other firms that are promising you 8.2 or whatever the case may be. But what I want to talk to you about is your parents, and how much do you know about their health? How much do you know about how much money they have saved up? And if something were to happen to them, are you going to pitch in? Are you going to contribute? Because if so, we need to get in front of that right now. And, this ended up hitting closer to home than I wanted it to, because my father ended up coming down with dementia, a form of dementia, in 2013, 3 years after I'd helped my parents set up a long-term care policy. And, he lived with it for 9 years. I call it the iceberg to your financial plan's Titanic, because it's the one disease that people just live with for a really long time, right? Like, if somebody gets cancer or heart disease, those are usually, like, I'm sure they're not fun, but they don't last as long, right? So with somebody getting something that is affecting their brain, they could require 24/7 nursing care for a really long time. And I cannot tell you the number of clients that have reached out to me over the years to tell me, like, man, thank goodness that you had this conversation with me, and that I was able to get this plan set up and this thing put together. And that's just one example. Another example is just this whole idea of retirement, right? Like I know that you're expecting me to say, what number should I put into this plan here for the age that you want to retire? But I want to push back at you a little bit, and I want to have a conversation about whether you'll actually be happy sitting around doing nothing for 30 years. So there was that too.
Yep, I love it. So your second book just came out, right? I mean, it's pretty recent.
Yeah, a week ago. I just found out yesterday, the USA Today bestseller list, which was pretty fun.
USA Today, that's awesome. How does that? What's the criteria for that? You have to sell a certain amount of books in a week or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. So they have a list of 150 books, and they combine fiction and nonfiction, and it's really just as pure as it gets. They're just looking at, like, the total units that you're selling, as opposed to, like the New York Times. Nobody can figure it out, and, like, you could pay a lot of money, I think, to game it and make it work if you want, but that wasn't super important to me. So I was like number 35 on the USA Today bestseller list, which is great. And it's mainly a testament to my network. I had so many people step up to buy 25, 50, 100, 200 copies of my book, because they wanted to give it out to clients and friends. And it's really, like, the power of, like, just having a lot of people that wanted to support me and the ideas that were in it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I know. I was just talking to somebody, like, the Amazon bestseller doesn't really mean much anymore. I mean, anybody could be an Amazon bestseller, right? If you are 2 a.m. and you sell the most books in your category, you're an Amazon bestseller for that hour, right? So, but it sounds like USA Today is more of, like, the real thing. Can't be gamed, nothing silly, right? So congratulations. Yep. That's super fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I'll tell you, with Amazon, with my first book, the day it came out, I peaked. I at number 4 overall in business, number 1 in sales for 2 days, and I was number 1 in 3 subcategories for 4 months. So where Amazon is advantageous and why somebody may want to try to rank high on Amazon is because I think a lot of people buy books by going to a category that they're interested in and looking and seeing what are the top 10 books in that category, and then they buy one of those. And then it's just a smaller example of, I think, what you've seen with like Atomic Habits by James Clear. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for 9 years. I think because so many people just buy books by, well, what are the top books on the New York Times bestseller list? And boom, I'm going to click that one. And here we are. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine how many copies of that book he sold.
Yeah. I'm re-listening to it right now. Funny you choose that book.
Yeah, cool. Yep. It's a good one. Yep.
I just met someone, I've known her for a long time, and we're having coffee, and I told her I'm reading this book. She goes, I went to college with him. He was in my class at Denison. I'm like, get out. Can you contact him? And I'm going to have him on my podcast here, so we'll see what happens.
Cool, man. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Cool. Well, Derek, what's next for you? 2 books, great family, great business. What are you, about 35 years old? What's going on? What's next?
I'm 48 years old.
You look good.
I've got, thanks, man. I've got a 15 and a 12-year-old, 2 boys. And, I have really just been focused on leaning into the time that I have with them. I don't know. Do you have kids?
I do. I have 3 kids, 21, 20, and 14.
Yeah. So, I talk about, we didn't even talk about a lot of the kid stuff that I talk about in my book, but I will say that, like, for me, and this, the idea, the retirement, the planning on having this income coming in the future, freeing you up to do more of what you want to do right now, that's like a microcosm of the way that I'm living my life right now in relation to like my kids. So my kids are going to be out of the house likely in 3 or 5 years respectively. And so for me, I want to spend as much of my time here with them, present for them, as much as I can in the here and now, knowing that like when they go away, I'm ready for like 60, 70-hour weeks again, right? Like sign me up for that. And it's almost like somebody, I say that it's sponsored by, the time I spend with them now is sponsored by the knowing that I'm going to have more income coming in the future. So I'm saying yes to some speaking gigs right now, but I'm not saying yes to every speaking gig right now.
I love it. Well, probably.
But I'll say yes to all of them in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah. And the ones you're saying yes to right now, probably money talks, right? $100,000, maybe you'll show up, right? So.
$100,000, no doubt about it, man.
I think that's what James Clear's getting. So, but awesome. Well, Derek, congratulations on your work. It's you're going deep, right? You've really thought this through. You're not just your average financial advisor. You've put some depth and some thought into the process of it, and really how to make sense of it and do it the right way so that you could really enjoy your life. So congratulations. People want to buy your book. I imagine it's on Amazon, your website, the whole works.
Yeah, man. Yep. They can get it on Amazon, and I've got some different bonuses I give away, on my website. Like I put together a nice companion workbook and, audiobook and things like that at DerekCoburn.com. But yeah, Amazon's a great place. And you ask me what's next for me, it's really just this book, man. I'm on a 1 book every 10-year pace. And I'm committed to this idea. I'm committing to changing the narrative. I love that I wrote a book that we barely scratched the surface of what's in it during like this amazing conversation that we just had. And I really want to get the ideas out, because I think that like there are so many people that know they should be spending more time with their kids. They know they should be taking better care of themselves. They know they should be having more fun, but the money thing is a problem. Like they feel like they can't afford it. And what I really feel like I'm going to do for a lot of people is relieve the pressure a little bit to make them realize, hey, I'm going to work longer than I thought I was going to, and that means I all of a sudden have more time and money than I thought I had. A documentary producer who read my book just reached out to me. He said it's the first finance book he read. He's like, and I say finance because I thought it was going to be a finance book, even though it was mostly not a finance book. And he was being pitched for multiple book offers, and he had been saying no. And he said that reading my book and him realizing that he wasn't going to have a full stop, a hard stop where he was no longer going to be earning an income, made him realize that he wanted to write the book. So he started working on the outline. And I just want to keep spreading the good word and having, creating and hopefully playing a small role and having more of these stories kind of come to life.
Yeah, how gratifying. You're changing lives.
Yeah, man.
Love it. Cool. Love it. So DerekCoburn.com, right?
Yep.
Awesome. And if anybody wants a personal connection, he's great. He always answers my emails. I'll make an introduction if you'll accept him. But go to his website. It's really great. Derek's really great. He's a super nice guy, number one, good human, and putting out some great guidance out there. So, Derek, thank you so much for doing all the great work you're doing. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it, Dave. Thanks for the time and exposing me to your awesome community.
Absolutely. And I also want to thank everybody for listening, watching, maybe both. If you like it, do your thing. We're trying to spread the good word, spread the gospel of the David Mammano Show. We'd really appreciate it. Like us, love us, share us, all that good stuff. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day, and make sure to stay awesome.